Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gotham Chess Slow Run. In this series, I started at 400, and I'm moving up the rating ladder. Every step of the way is getting explained to you, and we are currently in the middle of the 1500s. This is episode number 37. You guys had really good feedback on episode 36, so I'm going to keep rolling along. I also want to tell you I'm recording this June 25th, and only until tomorrow, you can pre-order my next book, and you can get it for 25% off at Barnes & Noble if you use the code PREORDER25. You can get a free membership. That's all you got to do. You got to do this. Pre-order 25. Very exciting. I have the first book arriving at the house soon. Can't wait. And everything that we are covering in these episodes right now is in that book. Pawn play, piece play, attacking, defending, tactical play, converting winning positions, end games, and so on and so forth. Now, I have played some serious monsters at this rating group. They are very good. I'm going to continue right along. I'm going to play d4 in this game and maybe show you how to play a London as a 1500 rated player. Let's get the bishop to f4. There's two different Londons that you can play. Okay, this is already an inaccuracy, which is quite fascinating to see at 1500 level. The two Londons that you can play are the one where you put a knight on c3 followed by a knight to b5 and pawn to e3 and just kind of like normally playing with the pyramid and everything like that. Knight c6 is kind of inaccurate because the pawn on c5 can't, the c7 pawn can't move forward to c5 anymore. And we generally know that knight in front of a c-pawn is relatively bad, relatively. I'm going to play this one. I'm not going to play knight to c3. Maybe I'll play that in a future episode. And we will just play like a traditional, London with c3 and bishop d3 and so on and so forth. My opponent is playing this the most passive way. So these are two already pretty significant inaccuracies. And at this point, after something like knight f3, we actually have a way to play this London where we can already win this game in about 10 moves. Nearly like from this position. Why? Because black has put the knight here, which has limited their central play against us. Black played the bishop very passively to e7 instead of to d6, which not only tries to trade some pieces, it also fights for the e5 square. In the London, if you can confidently plant a knight on the e5 square and then bring your queen out like this, you don't even have to castle. There are Londons where you can very quickly generate play without castling your king. See, now my opponent has committed another bishop move, and these pawns will just lead to a decisive attack. Now, I don't actually have to move my knight, because it's very well protected. There's a couple of ways to play from here. First, you can just bring your queen out, although I kind of want to save that for like moving out there if the knight were to move. Another way that's very strong is bringing the bishop back and then doing what's called a stonewall pawn structure. I will show you this stonewall pawn structure now. It also can appear in and this is something that I do all the time. It can appear in a lot of different openings. But instead of that, my opponent chooses to trade the bishop for the knight. I have said that people at this level are bad at transforming the positions. They do it at the wrong moments. This is one of those wrong moments. This is simply not a very good trade for black. You remove a bishop for basically no reason, and white just enjoys a very comfortable advantage. Now, I could continue with pawn to f4, although I don't have to anymore. I can obviously just move my knight. I can just go here. I can also play queen h5, which is a little bit more aggressive. I don't love queen h5 anymore because black could actually maybe trade queens with me. Let's just play knight f3, and let's just show how to play this position. I think knight c5 followed by knight e4 is relatively reasonable. I always am looking at dropping my bishop back here and launching some sort of attack against the king. Okay, f6 is a relatively good pawn break. It challenges my center. I don't think I have any choice really other than to take, otherwise I'm going to get taken. So I'm going to make this trade. Pawn takes f6, and I imagine my opponent is going to take back. Okay, they take back with the rook, which I think is a miracle that they didn't just immediately blunder this. I am going to play this move and force g5 and actually sacrifice my knight for those two pawns. I am going to go for this. Normally, a knight for two pawns for something like this is not very good because, you just don't have enough material. to justify it. But actually, in this case, and furthermore, getting a rook for a knight and a bishop is generally not a very good deal, because the two pieces are worth a lot. But right now I'm getting 2 pawns, and I'm getting the king completely stripped of pawns. My opponent moves out of the way here with the queen. Now I can take, or I can maybe even, you know, go for some sort of checkmate with like queen h5, for example. But let's play simple chess for now. We have a rook and 2 pawns for a knight and a bishop. And I'm gonna show you that this, you know, this could have been good. It might not be so good. You know, we will get there and we will find out and we will see. You'll notice very quickly I have lost a bit of material here. Like, I actually don't have a lot of offensive firepower as I once did. I don't have many more pieces. Queen g4 looks like a very reasonable move. I like this move because the opponent has to move the king. If they block, I simply win a pawn. So they play king f8. They play this move pretty quickly, and now I have to make a decision. I can castle. I can maybe do something else. One move here that is definitely coming is knight to e5, right? And so I have to make a decision which way I'm going to play here. I'm going to choose to castle queenside. Probably the knight is going to come in here, and the game will develop. But you're going to notice very quickly the impact of not having pieces for me will be felt. Like, it's going to become quite clear that I don't have the, you know, the backup that I would had I not gone for something like this. Let's play queen g3 and let's see if my opponent trades. For the record, I think this trade is good for black, and my opponent is, again, these 1500s that I've been facing recently are a little cracked, but I don't like this move. This move is simply a dopamine move, because now I feel as though I am creating some really nasty threats to my opponent. Rook f4, by the way, doesn't work. Wow, king e7 was just played like in a second, just like no hesitation whatsoever. Maybe we can push this pawn. Rook f4 doesn't work, unfortunately, because of this. Now, I can prepare rook f4 by playing maybe king b1, you know, getting my king out of the way and moving it to the corner. But I also have to think, like, black is probably 2 moves away from getting their pieces into the game. So I have to think of a move here that makes some sense. Let's kick out this knight from the center of the board. I don't like the speed at which my opponent is playing. I'm expecting this, although I think knight f7, knight d6, knight f5 could be even better. Again, the 1500s that I have faced thus far play all the best moves all the time, which is concerning because they're 1500. Was that like a misclick? Why did that happen? Well, now we are just completely winning. Now we won a piece, and I'm going to show you how to convert this position basically instantly into a win. And it has to do with the safety of black's king. When you have a material advantage, of course, you can just, like, converting winning positions. How to win at chess next level. Pre-order it, 25% off. You can go into an endgame. We can try to trade this rook off the board and win an endgame, but sometimes you have such a position that you can launch an attack against the king with your material advantage. And since black can't get off the back rank here, I'm going to check and force the king back. The only move now is king d8. Because after that I can give a check and they will block. And I'm just going to put both rooks on the 7th and 8th ranks, and black will never be able to leave the position. I'm going to go there, and then I'm just going to push my g-pawn. These 2 rooks and my biggest pawn asset, which you should identify in an endgame, is really all I need. That was an interesting battle. Giving away the 2 pieces for the rook and 2 pawns was certainly a bold choice by me. I probably didn't have to do that. I'm not even sure which of these moves is better. Maybe this. And I'm keeping a distance away. Maybe that's better than going there, a little too close. Right now I'm threatening a combination that wins on the spot. Rook to g8 check. It actually wins even if my opponent's going to push this pawn. I think what my opponent's going to do is try to make a getaway. But I'm going to play check, bishop e8. That's actually an interesting move. So check, bishop e8. I was going to sack my rook and then try to play rook h8 and do that. But I don't actually, I mean, there's no reason. I like this move because now black is completely stuck. So bishop e8 is just good, and I can just push my g-pawn. I mean, this was basically what I was telling all of you. The position is so utterly dominant here What is black thinking about? Yeah, so now I'm just going to go g4, and black just can't move. And once that pawn gets to g6, g7, black is just going to be totally out of options. The only thing they can try to do is maybe play c5 and get their rook out, but that also doesn't work. I didn't play rook h8 because king d7 was possible, and then the rook would be defending the bishop. But when the rook was further, I could have sacked the rook for the bishop, and then I could have played rook h8 and won the rook with a tactic. Rook e8 followed by rook h8. Now I can't do that. The king is too close to defending. This is miserable. This is a really bad position, but it was just very weird that just blundered a knight in one move. That was very unnecessary. And they abandoned the game. Okay, so let's quickly analyze that. And let's jump right in. All right, number one, the London. You have two ways to play this. These two moves, knight c6 and bishop e7, they take the game from 0.3 to 0.6 to just, like +1, right? So the opponent played knight c6, bishop e7, h6, which are decent moves, but certainly, not the best, not challenging my bishop, which you should do, not playing c5, which challenges the center and opens up the queen, and the c-pawn in general for black is very good in the London. Use that to your advantage. Already in this position, I have this cool move g4 I wanted to show you as well. G4 tries to go g5, trade this pawn, and open the g file for an attack. It's also a gambit. You give away a pawn, but after rook to g1, this pin is too strong, and it's really that pawn that's a major issue, since even if I kick the knight out, I'm always going to take this pawn, and then my rook is just way too powerful. Knight is coming, queen is coming to f3, the other knight is coming to f3, e5, g5, etc. So sometimes when you have a position where the opponent has castled before you in a London, you can use this g-pawn as a decoy. I wouldn't really be able to do this here, because then there is no bishop h6. My opponent didn't push a pawn in front of their king. A pawn in front of a castled king like that for the opponent is called a hook. So there is no bishop h6. I could play it, but black can just defend, as opposed to just losing a pawn back. So g4 is a cool move. My opponent did this, and at this point, bishop g3 followed by f4 was me setting up the stone wall, but I could have done a lot. I could have went queen f3, could have played this in one go, and then black would have done something. And basically, what I would have done here is I would have probably long castled, and then I'm ready, right? I'm ready with my pawn storm, g4, h4. I can probably even go g4 in this position, or h4. Black is in a lot of trouble because of the way that they handled their play. Like the knight and bishop were sort of wasted moves, and then this move was not a very good transformation, and knight f3 was very chill, f4 was also reasonable. This move was played, we traded, and the computer, so we will get into this. Already here, if I just play short castle, white is significantly better here because white has the bishop pair. Black is very underdeveloped. Black is going to need 2 or 3 moves to catch up. In the meantime, if I even short castle here, and black goes here trying to get the bishop out, I just break in the center. We trade, and white is just dominating in this position. The bishops are carving up the queen side. The rook is dominant. This is a weak long-term pawn that is blocking everything. If you go really long-term, the 3-on-2 in the endgame will be good for white. So positionally, black has made poor transformations, which is generally the biggest weakness that I notice in strong intermediate players that are not yet advanced, is they do things like this. They just make a trade, bring the knight back, and they think it's safe, but it's a poor transformation. It gives the opponent an advantage. Now, g5, here's something very fascinating. The computer thinks this position is +2 if and only if white goes here, and I'm not even joking, retreats. Because pawns can't go backwards, it thinks that this is such a beneficial long-term weakness, it's completely unconcerned that we've wasted time, and then it's just just play h4, and if g4, you can come back with the knight, and you keep making your opponent push the pawns forward, but as you do that, then you can make a break with f3, or you even have time to play bishop c2, queen d3, and maybe create a checkmate idea in the long run. The computer is so happy because these pawns are so much better here than fully advanced, as black is just totally defenseless. Now, this sacrifice, where I get 2 pawns and a little bit of pressure, is okay. It's okay, and white is slightly better here, but it doesn't really feel like white is better, because if black plays this position accurately, black will bring out the knight, the bishop, the rook, And you just kind of feel the impact of two knights more than you feel the impact of two pawns. I was showing you, like, this doesn't feel as nice as having all of your pieces like this, but it is one of those moments you have to calculate, because 2 pawns for a piece is not very good. 2 pieces for a rook is also not very good, but a rook and 2 pawns for 2 pieces plus the weak king, right, the very open king, can give us some good chances. Not to mention, in every endgame, these pawns will just move, and we saw that. Like, I just pushed the pawns, and even here a move like h4 is not that stupid. Because honestly, even if black does this, we have the luxury to just push the pawn. It's kind of hilarious, but, you know, then black would maybe play bishop d7, and we would play h6, and now black finally got all their pieces in the game, but, like, we still have a pawn on h7. This is still going to be a massive long-term problem, even if the computer is evaluating this as, you know, beneficial for the opponent. Now here, another move that I wanted to draw attention to is I was contemplating this move pawn to f4. Pawn to f4 is what's called a prophylactic move. We know that the opponent wants to go here. Pawn f4 is just a nice move. It kind of stops that forever. Then black will go this way, which is to be expected, and then black might play bishop d7, but the difference is that we completely avoid anything in the middle. And if they open the middle, well, that's going to benefit us because their king is over there, and we haven't, you know, we have to castle, right? So the long story short is that the queen with less pieces, and we have less pieces, we only have 1, 2, and 3 pieces, that queen needs more pieces on the board to be powerful. Whereas, like, the more pieces you trade, look, you're going to see in this game, black is almost equalized in this game, but black needed to play more accurately. This move was okay. King e7 was okay. And, you know, ultimately in this position, my opponent, like, I don't know, completely malfunctioned. I have no idea what on earth this move was. But yeah, there was like a moment here where, you know, I went for this, I went bishop h4, they went queen f8, and, you know, queen f6 is the move that they played. They went king f8. They played this knight to e5, which is okay. And then they, like, traded and went, you know, here, and they were playing pretty logically, but then they just hung their knight, which, yeah, you know, that's how it goes sometimes. And then we won this very easily. We went here, you know, rook c8, and black is just utterly helpless in this position. Just total rook domination. Yeah. Long story short, in general, as we see here, knight and bishop, even if it's for a rook and 2 pawns, it's probably not a good deal. Even with the opening of the king. Having said that, in this position, proving you are much better, proving that if we just did nothing and we were plus 1.8, a little difficult, but then we would have had to go for a pawn break, bring the queen, bring the rooks, etc. And I'm still at 1500, so, like, I am trying to not obliterate people entirely. Let's play e4 in this game, and let's see what happens. All right, we have e4, e5. There's obviously a lot of openings. I'm going to play a Vienna in this game, and I'm going to play... we'll see if we get a Vienna Gambit or if we get a symmetrical Vienna. Hopefully we don't get, you know, a person that's reading their opening course as they're playing f5. Wow. A reverse Vienna game. So this is a reverse King's Gambit. This is very interesting. Now, it doesn't work. Okay, let's be very clear. You can't play like this with black because, frankly speaking, like, we are just threatening to win the game outright, right? Queen h5 check. So now, what does black want? Black wants to play d5, knight c6, etc. Now, the best move for us, very frequently in positions like this, anytime you're getting hit with some sort of flank gambit, is a strike in the center. Almost always, this is the right way to play. And the point is that black is going to need a little bit of time. So now black has wasted an entire move in their little gambit, and we have central presence, and we have developed a bishop. The second best move, generally in positions like this, when you have like a pawn sort of out there, is actually g4. Now, this is not a move that you play very lightly, you know? This is not a move that you just kind of throw out there and you're like, ah, this is easy. The alternative, though, is bringing the bishop. And the reason is the knight is now pinned, and e4 is just like a target all the time. So d5, actually, I think is already, we are almost winning, like, now. Because I think we can just take the knight. And the point is that if they take with the queen, we take this. Wow, they're just giving us d5. I don't know what's happening. Are we in some sort of preparation? Like, what is this? And if they had taken with the pawn, we would have went queen h5 check. In fact, I think I can play queen h5 check. In fact, I can play it at any moment. I can play like knight takes d5. If this, I just win a rook, which is nice. But right now, we are playing full-on refuting this gambit. So we are playing queen h5 check. Aggressive, they weaken their king early. If pawn to g6, I'm just going to take... What is this? I'm just going to win a rook. What is this? What is this? What? Knight c7 is right there. We just won in 9 moves. Like, what is... This is how you refute gambit play. I mean, what is going on? We are up 8 points of material. How do I get opponents like the last few episodes, and then I get opponents like this? It just absolutely blows my mind. So we're going to lose this night, but obviously, like, we could do anything here. Like, bishop b5 and d5 is good. Long castle is good. Let's go here. Now we just trade pieces. The game plan here is very easy. Trade pieces. d5 is also a threat. Like, we're just going to get... I don't even care. Just trade off your opponent's pieces. We are now going to win the endgame. I don't know what there was to think about in that position, but now we are going to lose the knight. There's no... Unless we don't have to lose the knight, but I don't really see how we are going to save it. Let's play pawn to f3. The idea is very simple. We just want to trade and get this knight out. Okay, they're just giving us this pawn. I'll take it, and I'm going to get my knight out. So they're going to take our knight, but we have 2 pieces out. We have 4 extra pawns and a rook for a bishop. We have a 6-point material advantage. If c5, we can take or we can push. Look, bishops like long diagonals like this, but in an endgame like this, you should not be making any one-move blunders anymore. There are just not enough pieces on the board to scare us. Okay, bishop h6 is a fine move. I can't long castle, but I can short castle. I also, in an endgame, don't even have to castle. You can be brave here. You can put the king in the middle of the board. The king can go support the pawns like this with king d3. I'm expecting rook e8 here from the opponent to attack the pawn. Then king d3, c5 might happen, and then I might just reinforce. Okay, I'm going king d3. I expect c5. There's a nice line here, c5, d5, c4, which could happen. But what I have noticed at this level is players who get themselves into losing positions oftentimes rattle off just like a couple of really, really, really good moves in a row. And I'm not going to say anything, but I think that's self-explanatory what I'm saying. They're trying to fight their way back into the game. I'm going to play e5 check, and c4 now just looks like it wins immediately. So I was going to play c3 here. I was just going to keep my center together, but I have an opportunity to play pawn to c4, followed by d5. So d5 check, this is very strong, and now we go something like pawn to e6. Maybe everyone's on a slow run account, I have no idea. But, like, hopefully this isn't... Look, I'm instructive. I've walled out the bishop. I can push all of these pawns forward. This is a completely and utterly winning position. I haven't even touched my rooks. I've done this all with pawns. And next I bring in my rooks to the middle. Rook e7 is fine. I don't know. Bring one of the rooks to the middle, maybe this one. Then I'm going to play knight e5, rook f1, go trade the rook, push my pawns through. There is absolutely no counterplay in sight for black. We have completely blocked out the light-scored bishop, and that is how you refute edgy openings that generally are bad. Most people in a position like that, they start covering up. My opponent actually played the Master of the Vienna. They played the Master of the Vienna with... They played the Vienna against me, which is crazy. I don't know why they would do that. King d6 was played. We did this. They took with the pawn. They ended up losing their center pawn. And, I think they played quite reasonably. King d5, of course, was a big blunder. If black wanted to create a little chaos here, a little bit of counterplay, I think what they tried was good, but they just lost too much material. You cannot play f5. In general, you cannot play the reverse King's Gambit. The King's Gambit is an opening for white, and this is how you refute poor opening play. You take, and you generally strike the center. Now, the top computer move in this position is not d4, because black could have played pawn takes, queen takes, and something like knight c6, and then I would have moved my queen somewhere, like h4 or d3, and then black would have went d5, and I would have developed, but they wouldn't have won their pawn back. I would have just kept the pawn, castled quickly, and then that's how, we would have played. The actual top move of the computer here is g4. That's very difficult to play as a human because black will get the whole center, and then you need to have the presence of mind to go g5 and basically refute the position from the start because you're threatening queen h5 check, which is why after g4, the best move is usually h6. And then you play knight f3 attacking this pawn, giving up that pawn. Black will play like knight c6, and then the top move for white is knight h4. Nobody plays like this. Nobody plays like this because you just, like, this is very unprincipled. It's much more human for you to play a move like knight f3 immediately, and suddenly you've stumbled into a position where black has full control of the center, and then if you play it wrong, black just gets an advantage. That is why people at this level constantly play openings like this. This is also why the Vienna is so good for white, because against white, you can't take the pawn. And then we get e5 with a totally dominant position. But the reverse Vienna has its drawbacks, and you saw how in this game, I struck the center, and then after the center locked, within a few moves, it was +3. We had a +3 advantage on move 8, simply refuting the opening by showing how the mechanics work there with bishop g5 and so on. All right, I mean, I wasn't really expecting to win a game in 8 moves, but I guess this will be a 3-game video. Yeah, these 1500s are super weird. These, I mean, they are super weird. Sometimes they're getting losing positions in 10 moves. Sometimes they're playing just unbelievably well. I'm going to play another... I wanted to play e4. Okay, well, I guess I can play e4. But I don't really like that line against the French defense. But okay, we'll play this. Oh, okay, so we're playing a freestyler. That's what we're doing. When people play like this and they don't really commit anything, I kind of like to just play as many center pawns as possible. Wow. Okay, as many center pawns as possible. 4 pawns in the center for us. So my opponent is playing what I guess is a hippo. So I have 4 pawns in the middle. Very, very aggressive position. Don't blunder this. A lot of people blunder stuff like this. They play bishop d2 here, and after it takes, they lose their center pawn. So bishop d3. And now I'm ready to push. Okay, so they have given me so it is probably already completely winning for white. You just have to refute this setup, basically. The best move here for white, without a doubt, is something like pawn to e5. At some moment, either now or on the next move, because black is going to have to move the knight somewhere, and it's not going to be very pretty. e5, every knight move is bad, except maybe knight e4, which is really annoying that move is, like, not immediately lost. I'm still going to go here and see if my opponent jumps in with the knight, because any retreating move is just bad. Knight h5, the knight is trapped on the spot, and they just lose the game. Knight g4, the knight is trapped on the spot, and if... Oh, knight g4, just h3. What am I missing? What am I missing? Just pawn to h3. I think my opponent is purely playing for tricks. Like bishop takes f3 and like queen h4 check, but the knight's just trapped. So my opponent didn't even understand that they had to go knight e4. This is 2 games we just won back-to-back against 1500s. Yeah, so the next move is going to be queen h4 check. And now, with one simple move, by the way, I can play king e2 and king f1. And there is no way back for these pieces. But it gets even worse, because I can just go here. Now the queen is hanging, the knight is hanging, and the rook is hanging. And black has lost this game just on the spot. We're going to take this way, and they're going to lose another piece. Fe was also fine. Now this is just... Wow. And that is an example of a player that freestyled in the opening and got it totally and utterly wrong. And if they move the rook now, they're still going to get mated. So we escape with the queen. We threaten mate. If f5, there is passant. G4, G6 is fine. Look, here you just go for it. We don't even have to castle. H4, they're gonna play H5. I'm gonna play G4. They're gonna take. I'm gonna play H5. If H5, G4, they don't take. I'm gonna take them. When you have such a material advantage, principles can kind of go out the window. You know, any try for counterplay, there's en passant. H5 and takes is just absolutely vicious. We're able to get away with a pawn sacrifice like this because this is protected by the rook. We are not even using 2 of our pieces, although their presence is very well respected. I would love to go bishop a3. One way to set that up is to push this pawn 2 squares and get the rook defending the bishop. But obviously bishop here, and even the king hanging out along with the pieces is fine because black is down so much material that there is no chance that they can come back here. So this is just a vicious example of converting a winning position. No jokes, no ifs, buts, or maybes. We're just going straight into the position. Pawn takes g6. We've now totally opened the king. And, I might have to maneuver my queen a little bit. I might have to just avoid a little counterplay, but yeah, maybe g7. G7, the queen will take. Ooh, rook h7 is gorgeous. I'm gonna check something kind of funny. Just very quickly. So rook h7, you have to visualize your opponent is gonna play queen c5 and have queen g1. This is one thing I would like to draw a little attention to. That if I play rook h7 here and I just go for some sort of checkmate, I might not get it. There might be some counterplay. Let's see if my opponent is sharp enough to find this concept, Okay, queen d6 was played very quickly. That's not a threat. That's not really a threat. So now we can push the g-pawn because we are defending this. And I'm actually threatening rook h8, which would just win without without anything. Rook h8 and queen h7. But notice how I've used, and there's the move, but it's too late. Notice how I have used my my material advantage, and I converted this game with the same 3 pieces we both have. I didn't even use my bishop and my rook. And that just goes to show you the power of a position, right? Like, we are completely winning here. Completely winning. But it's just made possible by the existence of these 2 pieces. Whenever they are needed, I played h4 in this position, g4 takes, and just viciously knocked down the door here. If queen f6 had been played with some counterplay here, I now have 2 choices. I can play bishop d2 and continue the attack, or by far the simpler thing is just to trade the queen. If you trade the queen, they will never, ever, ever create any counterplay against you at all, right? There will just be no counterplay. It won't even be close. But it could happen, right? It could, you could ultimately blunder. Now, this game was a player who did not play principled, who gave me a +2 position just straight up out of the opening because they didn't take the center. They played a bishop for knight trade for no reason. And that's kind of an example of maximalist play. Just take as much space as you can with your center and flank pawns because this is principled, The best move in this position is maybe not c4. It's a completely reasonable move. But, I like to do this because I like to just get as many pawns into the game as I can. But yeah, the best move is to bring your knight and your bishop and everything. But people are so bad at dealing with a position where you have so much pawn superiority in the center. The reason f4 is bad is because black can go here, and suddenly, black is actually fighting back for central equity. And if I had developed a knight and they played some d5 move, well then, then we push and we proceed, but at least I've developed a piece. The reason why this is slightly inaccurate, these 4 pawns, is because black can at any moment strike the center. And black's ability to strike the center gets weaker if you develop more pieces. So for example, if I had went knight f3, h6, and then I went bishop d3, and then they went b6, and then I, castled, and then they decided to attack the center, well, now this is really bad news because the king is in the middle, and I've already developed as many pieces as possible. So the computer doesn't bless it because it's technically not the best, but you see how pawn attacks like this really, crush people's dreams. Against knight e4, I was actually just going to castle, and if knight c3, the knight is trapped. It doesn't have a way out of the position. Also, queen e1 traps the knight, I'm pretty sure. So, queen e1, I guess there's knight a4. But, yeah, my opponent went here, and, this is just... It's wild, the level difference at 1500, you know what I mean? Let's just finish the video. It's only a 30-minute video. I might as well. D4, let's play one of my favorites. I'll play the Dutch defense. I have this on Chessly. You can check it out for free. Chessly doesn't require a card. Now knight c3 is played about 80% of the time because most people, they put the knight behind the pawns. Sometimes they go knight f3 and then knight c3. In this version of my Dutch defense on Chessly, I like to pin the knight and then take it, damaging their pawn structure. Similar to the last game, except I didn't give them a million pawns. This is literally chapter 1 of my Dutch course, this exact position. There's also a very famous trap here, a5, a3, a4, queen b4, knight c6, queen b5, rook a5. If that happens, you have to check it out. If that happens, you absolutely are required to go to Chessly and check it out. a3, a4, queen b4, knight c6, the queen is trapped with the rook. Okay, they didn't fall for it, but they now they can't really fall for it on the next move either, because after a3, a4, no, they could take with the knight. I mean, we could just play for a trap, but that would be so lame of us, no? I feel like it would be so lame to just play for a trap. I'm trying to set up the trap another way, like if I play b6 here, knight takes, bishop takes, knight no, it's not really gonna work. Okay, then I guess we can't really set it up. I'm gonna stop being an idiot. I'm just gonna castle my king. But I will show you that trap after. Now they might play a3, but then of course I was always gonna take the knight anyway. But yes, it's kind of a funny little thing. Okay, b6 is obviously our move here. We want to play bishop b7 and put the bishop on this long diagonal. Very nice diagonal. I'm a little perplexed. My opponent hasn't actually attacked my bishop. They've just sort of left it there. I don't know what to do with that information. I want them to waste a move on this move, but they're refusing to do it, so I think I'm just going to take. And our idea here is very simple. We plant our knight in the middle on e4, and then this knight frequently goes over to f6. This pawn can be useful. It can always kick the queen back this way and make it more passive, although they did that themselves. And now we're going to play knight d7, knight f6, and there's even lines where if the opponent moves this knight, we get to play queen h4. So we can kind of see, we can kind of see the brewing of a kingside attack. We already know pawns like this could be hooks. Oh, we are actually getting exactly to a situation where that pawn could become very useful for us to target. I'm going to go queen h4 here. I predicted all of this, right? Our rook can come join the attack. The knight can come join the attack. Okay, knight f6 is already looking very good for us. And, I mean, we just have a total lockdown on the middle of the board right now. And g5, g4 is just screaming to be played at some moment. Of course, moving this would lose the bishop, but at some moment moving that, in fact, it might have even been good now. It might have been good because, you know, taking here, our knight gets to roam around, but in general, I will defend this bishop and then I will have the ability, you know, to take, like, hold on, knight takes d2, they go here, I take here, they take here, it's my move. At a minimum, I can play knight takes. At a minimum, and then pawn takes, and I win this, and I'm up at least a pawn. At least. So knight takes knight is very good for me already. Now, you can think of something even better, but I saw knight takes, bishop takes. And I mean, I just take the rook, and I feel like this is a major problem for white, because if they take me here, I'm going to take on f3. So they have to take my bishop. Then I take the rook, they take me, right? But it's my move. And since it's my move, I'm not going to take this. I'm going to play what's called a desperado. I'm going to sack my knight, since it was going to get taken anyway, hitting the queen. There is no check on me or anything. And now we go here, and we have an extra pawn. We have an extra pawn, and now d5 is something to be expected to open up the bishop. But after d5, I mean, I can just take probably. I have to be a little careful. A little bit careful, because actually originally I was going to go pawn to e5 in this position. Ooh, wait a minute. Tons of stuff. Hold on. Tons of stuff has just happened. So the bishop is open. They're trying to also open up the rook, but I can actually take this pawn. So this is maybe just a blunder, because if I take this, bishop f6, I win the queen. Oh, this was a very important spot for me. It was very important that I noticed this. Very important. Because queen c4 is a major problem for white. Major problem. I don't see anything. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with queen c4. And I think I'm just winning now. This should be pretty easy. I mean, b3, I can even offer a trade of queens. And this, I was just going to come back. There's no blundering, right? I haven't blundered. Oh, wait. If take, it's not a blunder, but it's, I don't like this. If take, there is bishop takes knight, which is which is just like not a move that, you don't expect that. But then there's queen c7, and I'm probably still better. But okay, let's pause here. The idea is bishop takes knight and also queen takes. So I'm looking at knight to e4, which kind of solves both of those problems. Knight e4, and I just take this back on the next move. I'm looking at all the possibilities between these three pieces, and I'm a little fortunate I have this, but I think it works. Because then I go here, then I'm up 2 pawns, and I've already talked about this in previous slow run episodes. My knight dominates this bishop, because the bishop just is useless on the dark squares here, and the light squares are very different quality. If I go here and create a defensive setup where there's no way into my pawn structure, I'm just winning. Then I'm going to start trading the pieces. I will take this to either a knight or a rook endgame, and I will convert using my pawn advantage. I don't really want the queen on the board. And you will notice that I spotted bishop takes f6, and knight e4 is another prophylactic move. Prophylaxis. I've spoken about this at length. Will be in the next book, How to Win at Chess, Road to Mastery. It's just moves where you anticipate negative situations. After knight e4, there was nothing. Because b3 loses this, rook d4... Yeah, I saw this, but I honestly just thought it's as easy as bringing my rook. And I'm looking around, I don't see any 2-move queen, attack or anything. I think it's as easy as literally playing rook e8 and taking the pawn on the next turn. I have the luxury to do that because white can't really do anything. White can't move with these pieces. White might get desperate and try to do something like pawn to g4, but that's only going to cause them way more problems. G4, you think, oh, I'm going to take and then take this knight. That's not going to work. For example, g4 pawn takes, rook d4. It's a fork, and you win the knight. That's actually very cool. Removing the defender of my knight, most people think you have to take back, and you just don't have to take back at all. Rook d4 was just played anyway, but for the record, you could take this, I think. You really can, but sometimes it might just be better not to be greedy. I actually think the best move there would be to take the knight and try to get the queen in the game. We'll analyze this. We have the luxury because the other games were so fast. I'm just going to go here and take on e7. I am not going to have any fun. I'm going to keep everything very well defended. I still think g4 might be played because most people just don't know what to do here. But my opponent is going to not realize I can play rook takes, and that actually adds a defender to e4. And pawns don't go backwards. The g4 is kind of the sign of a player that's like, I have no idea. I mean, I've tried everything. I've used all my pieces. I don't know what to do. And rook e7 is there, and then I'm going to take here, and then I'm going to take here, and then I'm going to be 3 pawns up in rook endgame, and we are going to win. I can also take on c3 now, but I'm just going to go rook e7. We are 2 pawns up. The threat is eliminated. Knight c3 is next. Maybe white is going to go bishop d4, but then I'm just going to smack the bishop straight back to where it was. I don't even want to move the knight. It's so strong, And now, okay, that was to be expected. This is obviously the easiest way to convert this. And then take this next. We don't have to. White should not take... No, you should not trade the queens here. You got to keep your queen on the board. And now you will probably just resign. We are a bunch of pawns up. Rook d2 is logical. You could do... So you win this in a million different ways. Bringing the king is always good. Yeah, just, be careful. If you push this pawn, you remember that pawn's weak, so white's going to go back. Now we bring the king. You got to be always ready to defend the pawns. A lot of rook moves are good. I like keeping the rook centralized and protected. And now you push, make sure there's no counterplay points. If g4, we can take, we can defend. It doesn't really matter. We can just take it. Now we wanted to go d4, but we can't. So maybe we go king e5. And now this is the best move by white. You got to look for counterplay. You got to look for something, some sign of life. That's not a great move. Just lets us push this pawn, and white is kind of losing time. And now rook e3. And now we come in with the king. We can go to f4, by the way. We can just win another pawn. Now rook f2 is the best move. You got to try something. You got to try something. Oh my gosh. There's no counterplay being played here by white. We're just taking all the pawns. And notice I'm not touching the base of my pawns. I'm just going to go h5 and we just push. Once white gives us the green light, we can push the d pawn. At some point, white is just going to run out of moves. Like h3. Like we just completely encroach on the territory. And this is mate. You don't even have to promote. That's just mate. That's just mate. We just win. We win. This was a fun episode. There were some bloopers. Yeah, I think this was This was a good 45 minutes. I think all of these games you could learn something from. Folks, you got to check out the Dutch on Chessly. The Dutch defense is one of the best openings to play as you try to climb to 2000. So many games you do something like this and your play is so easy. It's like a Nimso Indian, except it comes with the added benefit of having a pawn here. So you immediately anchor the knight in. You have the transfer point, the transport point through the f6 square. Otherwise the pawn would be here and you would be a little passive. The position is just so pleasant to play, and so many people here blunder a3, a4. It's so amazing. Queen b4, knight c6. The queen has no way home. And ultimately, the queen just gets trapped like this. And this is such a humiliating queen trap, and you will get it if you play it. I mean, so many people will fall into this. It's totally reasonable, and it does happen. Yeah, so that's, yeah. Anyway, I castled. I played my plan. I ended up just taking because I wanted to plant my knight here. d6, knight d7, and the position kind of plays itself. Like, I went queen h4, but queen g5 is also very good. Queen g5 is a really cool move because this is a fork on a queen and mate, which could happen. But obviously, queen h4, queen g5 are all reasonable. You know, you get the same type of position here. I went knight f6, and already you have this really cool move. Guys, I really cannot stress enough just how easy the Dutch defense is to implement at 1500 level. If you just learn some of these positions and variations, the play is so straightforward. d5, we played the best move. Knight e4 was the best move. For the record, if I had gone here, white has equalized with bishop f6, and it's so important that I spotted that, because you would just think, oh, you just take back automatically. But no, you actually have to have the presence of mind to understand that here you are cooked. You're cooked. This is a terrible position. White is very active in your territory here, but one move shuts it all down. And yeah, I think we were very methodical in this game. And I actually feel like I played this at like 99 accuracy or something. I'm just going to check before we sign off here. This game was played at 97.5. That was a 97.5 game. And yeah, clean. We're almost 1600. We might get there in the next episode. We might get there in 2 episodes from now. Once again, if you like the way I'm teaching, you got 2 more days. Go to Barnes & Noble. Become a member. It's free. Use the code PREORDER25. You're going to get 25% off the next book. All this stuff. Pawn structure, piece play, attacking, converting winning positions. It's right in this rating range. That is what the book is for. Appreciate your support as always. I'm going to go watch the World Cup. Get out of here.